You may know Corellia as the home planet of famous smuggler Han Solo, which he first mentioned as early as the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, or even as the location of the Corellian Engineering Corporation shipyards. But today we're going to be looking at Corellia's complicated history with the galactic powers throughout Star Wars Legends timeline. Specifically, we're going to be looking at what could cause one of the founding members of the Republic to one day go on to lead a major rebellion against the New Republic's successor state, the Galactic Alliance. Most of the events we'll be talking about in this video individually could and probably will fill a whole video on their own, so our focus will be on how each of these shows the relationship between Corellia and the governing power, instead of getting too caught up in the details of each situation. The Confederation Galactic Alliance War, or the Second Galactic Civil War, will definitely be getting its own video very soon, but most of the others are still great candidates as well. The roots of Corellia's independence streak, and the tools which allowed the first two of our highlighted events to take place, can be seen as early as the foundation of the Republic. Corellia held the esteemed position within the early Republic as one of the core founders, alongside such planets as Alderaan, Alsaken, and Coruscant, when it was established in 25,053 years before the Battle of Yavin. But Corellia remained opposed to unlimited control by the galactic government power. Within the Galactic Constitution, the framers included the power of Contemplanus Hermi, which translates from the Old Corellian language Olus Corellisi as meditative solitude. This power allowed Corellia, and the Corellian sector more generally, to entirely close its borders, withdraw its Senate delegation, and suspend diplomatic relations with the Galactic Republic, thereby adopting a position of neutrality while still remaining a member of the Republic. By invoking this uniquely Corellian power, they are able to, quote, unilaterally withdraw from Senate duties for the duration of the contention. Contemplanus Hermi was rarely used, but would most famously be invoked in the Corellian succession crisis centuries before the Clone Wars, and then the Clone Wars itself. The first of these two events has very few details known about it, having only been mentioned in a HoloNet news post where the previous quote came from. It was stated to be a full attempt at withdrawing the Corellian sector from the Galactic Republic around 450 years before the Clone Wars, or roughly the year 470 before the Battle of Yavin, although Corellia was unsuccessful in their bid to leave. The second of our events today occurred when Senator Garm Bal-Iblis in the Corellian Diktat, which is essentially the title for the president of Corellia, Shala Maricope, invoked Contemplanus Hermi to keep Corellia out of the Clone Wars, and withdrew Senator Bal-Iblis from the Senate. Maricope was quoted as saying, "Corsec, or the Corellian security forces, men and women will not be drafted into Republic service, to die on distant worlds outside of Corellia's borders, nor will armed forces from other worlds be billeted in our homes." Many Republic worlds and figures, including Chancellor Palpatine, were highly critical of Bal-Iblis and Maricope's decision to effectively sit out of the Clone Wars. Many likened it to secession, although Garm Bal-Iblis was adamant that this was not the case, and neither was it a step towards joining the Confederacy of Independent Systems themselves. Ultimately, they were not entirely successful in keeping Corellia away from the horrors of the Clone Wars, but the attempt had still been made, and the tensions between the Corellian system and Galactic Republic had been shown. Even during the reign of the Empire, Corellia would receive some amount of independence. While the sector was still technically under the authority of the Empire and Imperial Maw Fleury Voru, and the Corellian shipyards were used for the Imperial fleet, the office of Diktat was kept in place, although many would see them as Imperial puppets. Senator Garm Bal-Iblis, having been forced to rejoin the Senate after the Clone Wars, also became a founding, albeit temporary, member of the Alliance to Restore the Republic, before conflicts with co-founder Mon Mothma caused him to leave. After the fall of the Empire in 4 ABY, or after the Battle of Yavin, with the Battle of Endor, the Corellian sector remained independent instead of joining the forming New Republic, although a significant number of Corellians did serve within the Alliance military and became politically represented by a woman named Domin Barris on the Alliance's Provisional Council after Endor. The Corellian sector finally joined the New Republic in 12 ABY, and removed the office of Diktat and its occupant Galambi, replacing it with a governor-generalship. The first governor-general was a Frosian, another species native to the Corellian sector, named Macamber Lecto. The appointment of a non-human governor-general would cause significant amount of tension within the Corellians, which came to a head during the Corellian Crisis, also known as the Centerpoint Crisis, of 18 ABY, which was covered in the Corellian Trilogy series of books. This crisis occurred when a group known as the Sicorian Triad, a secret council from the planet of Sicoria within the Corellian sector, with 3 members being a Solonian, a Drawl, and a human, which were 3 of the major species from the area, fomented discontent among various Corellian groups with respect to the status of their membership and treatment within the New Republic. One such group with the Triad corded was a racist, humanocentric group called the Human League, led by Han Solo's cousin, Thraken Sal-Solo. The Triad's goal was to use Centerpoint Station, an ancient station which is believed to have been used to artificially assemble the Corellian system and the Maw, but that's a story for another video, as a weapon to turn the suns and other systems into supernova and establish Corellia as an independent empire. In the midst of this plot, Thraken murdered and replaced Governor General Macamber-Lecto as the self-proclaimed diktat of Corellia. Ultimately, the New Republic and loyalist Corellian Defense Force elements, with the help of the current fleet, were able to defeat the Human League and the Triad at the Battle of the Centerpoint Station. Han and Leia's son, the young Jedi Anakin Solo, was able to disable Centerpoint before it could be fired, and the naval forces, later joined by Akbar and elements of the New Republic fleet, forced the Triad into surrendering. Despite the crimes he committed, and the defeat of the Human League at Centerpoint, Thraken Sal-Solo was released from prison during the Yuuzhan Vong War, after having served only 8 years. The ideas he represented would remain popular throughout the period that followed. During the Vong War, he was even elected as a Governor-General, as the leader of the Centerpoint Party, after he became seen as a hero from his use of Centerpoint Station, once again opposed by Anakin Solo, to fire on and destroy half of the Yuuzhan Vong fleet attacking Fondor. They were destroyed alongside the majority of allied Hapan forces fighting the Vong there, though. Sal-Solo would once again try to claim independence for Corellia during this war, offering the Yuuzhan Vong a treaty which would declare Corellia neutral. The Vong instead took him captive, but despite failing once again, the Corellian attempt at independence had been made, and there was clearly some level of widespread Corellian support for his ideas. Even after his actions in the Vong War, Sal-Solo remained a popular figure among Corellians. He would again regain a position as the head of state under the Corellian system's Prime Minister Adel Saxon, which brings us to our final event, the Confederate Galactic Alliance War. Several policies pursued by the Galactic Alliance pushed Corellia and other systems towards this revolt, which prompted the war in 40 ABY. The Swarm War of 35 ABY between the Chiss and Killiks had led to a recognition that Alliance military was not equipped for war, prompting the Senate to impose larger taxes on military resources from members for reconstruction. Corellia and some other member worlds saw this as a relative weakening of their own defense forces and self-determination in favor of essential governments. Furthering this perception was a 37 ABY sector defense limit change, which put a cap on the maximum local sectors could increase their militaries. Corellia claimed they were being taken advantage of and prevented from being able to adequately defend themselves. In secret, they had begun building many new types of military vessels. Other worlds, such as Fondor and Commonor, as well as Hutt Space, the Bothans, and even some elements of the Hapan royal family, would back Corellia in their claims and ultimately join the Corellians in their confederation, rebelling against the Galactic Alliance. I'll be doing a video specifically on the course of this war very soon, since there's a lot to get into here, but the result was galactic infighting on a massive scale. The Galactic Alliance was left with many fault lines after the Vong War. Jacen Solo, the elder son of Han and Leia, and later Chief of State of the Galactic Alliance during this war, had once remarked that the galaxy is broken, and the ceasefire will not heal it. Corellia's history of balking at control by galactic powers made it the ideal center point, for an inevitable galactic conflict. While the war only lasted a year, it represented a major shake-up in the galactic political landscape. As the war came to a close, the Confederation refused to rejoin the Galactic Alliance, and so the Corellians were finally able to achieve a position of leadership within their own independent galactic political structure, a goal which had eluded them for decades, if not centuries. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Corellia's unique place within galactic history and their bids for independence. As I mentioned, the individual events we covered today, in this video, can almost all fill their own videos to go more in-depth, since this was more just about the Corellian independence angle instead of the events themselves. I'm going to do my best to make that happen, too. A video on the Confederate Galactic Alliance War, or Second Galactic Civil War, will be coming quite soon, where we'll look more at who is on each side, what happened, and how it ended. So if you have any other ideas or requests for topics to cover, please leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to throw the more popular ones on my whiteboard and cover as much as I can. Patrons of the channel also can vote on upcoming topics as a thank you for their support. If you'd like to support the channel in that way, the link can be found in the description. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.